The UN climate talks in Brazil are facing increasing disruption from protesters. Thousands have joined a so-called Great People's March outside the conference venue. They're demanding real action rather than just words on global warming.
The Great People's March on its way to COP30. Some wore red to symbolise the blood of those fighting to protect the environment. The march was made up of climate activists from all over the world, South American indigenous groups, as well as a smattering of anti-capitalists, anti-imperialists and anti-war protesters. Each group had a slightly different angle, but ultimately all were calling for climate justice and the defence of indigenous ancestral lands threatened by illegal logging and mining.
We don't want more projects that will kill our Xingu River. It's dying and they still want to build more mines and more dams. Enough is enough. We don't want any more of this on our river.
Stop deceiving us. Stop the deals with large mining and oil companies. We're here to defend Mother Nature, to defend the grandmother that is the sea. We do not want any more privatization of our Mother Nature. We do not want privatization of water.
I'm here to denounce the false climate solutions being negotiated in Belém, especially all the carbon markets and financial mechanisms. They don't address the climate crisis at all.
We're marching for our natural resources, for our lives, for our forests, for our Amazonia. We came all the way from Venezuela to fight, to preserve our natural resources. We will not give up.
This is the first time in 4 years that protests have taken place at the UN climate talks. The last 3 rounds were held in Egypt, Dubai and Azerbaijan, where authorities are less tolerant towards public demonstrations. The protesters outside the conference are pushing for climate justice, while the delegates inside, including fossil fuel lobbyists, try to thrash out an agreement to mitigate climate change.
Well, let's go to Belém now, and DW climate reporter Tim Schaumburg, who is standing by for us there. He's been following those protests very closely for us. Great to see you. So activists are demanding action. Is the Brazilian government actually doing anything, though?
Well, Pablo, the answer to that is definitely a mixed bag. We've heard the demands from the protesters in the report. On the other hand, we can see that the current administration under President Lula has managed to cut down deforestation in 2024 by roughly 50% compared to 2022. That is a large number. We see that there were landmarks, territories given to indigenous communities, other laws which would have cut their rights were blocked from the administration. That's on the pro side. On the con side, we see that there's a number of fossil fuel projects being granted just recently, just before this climate conference, this symbolic conference where they were approved in the Amazon. And coming back to deforestation, there is still a large number of wildfires which are not in the statistics, which also harm this very precious ecosystem and the natural resources which are the basis of livelihood of these communities. So definitely a mixed bag on your question.
Right, zooming out from Brazil, are the protests, because obviously we've seen that it's not just protesters protesting about what's going on in Brazil, but from across the world, are they having any effect at all on the delegates and fossil fuel lobbyists who are gathered there in Belém?
Well, on fossil fuel lobbyists, I guess not, as they are paid to spread the message that fossil fuels are the future and there is no economy working without fossil fuels. So it's their job to not listen to protesters. So I guess they ignore those voices. What I cannot imagine that the energy that is literally echoing into the halls of this climate conference is overheard and ignored by the delegates. Everybody here is aware that we are in the center of the climate crisis. As you can see, the Amazon just right behind me, parts of the Amazon forest. Everybody's aware of the significance here, and everybody is aware that the pressure is high. And what we see, for example, from the presidency itself, the President Dolago, he is trying to make a step towards the protesters. He will meet them. He's going to have conversations in public. They will hand over a manifesto, their demands. So at least on the symbolic side, the presidency here and Brazil is trying to show that it wants to communicate, that it wants to listen, and that it shows respect to those demands. How much of that is going to dribble in a final decision here, that is to be seen.
Now, you've been speaking, of course, to protesters, to people attending the conference and so on. How much hope is there that climate change will be tackled the way they deem appropriate?
Well, if we would have the big go-through here, the big revolution at this COP, everybody agreeing to meet their climate targets, I doubt so. The question is that there's not being done enough. We have barely seen enough climate targets so far. Some countries have not even been submitted. So the key question of tackling climate change is not if there is things being done to protect climate, but how fast and how quickly renewables and clean energies are being ramped up. And there we see a clear lack in speed. We see a clear lack in ambition from countries here in Belém, but it's also only half time. So there is still a chance to see big announcements here in Belém.
Right, great to have you on the ground there, Tim. DW climate reporter Tim Schauenberg in Belém in Brazil.